2025, UK retailer Marks and Spencer, otherwise known as M&S, experienced a significant cyber attack, resulting in an estimated $400 million, I think that's around 300 million pounds, profit loss. In response, M&S announced plans to expedite its digital transformation, aiming to complete a 2-year overhaul within 6 months. The CEO, Stuart Manchin, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, emphasized the company's commitment to recovery and innovation, stating, "We're seeking to make the most of the opportunity to accelerate the pace of improvement of our technology transformation and have found new and innovative ways of working." The accelerated plan focuses on restoring systems, operations, and customer services, with online shopping expected to resume by July. Despite the financial impact, M&S anticipates mitigating costs through insurance and strategic management, presenting these expenses separately on financial reports. Eric, given this information, what are the potential risks and benefits of compressing a 2-year digital transformation into 6 months?
Yeah. Anytime you compress that much, that aggressively, the risks, in my experience and opinion, typically outweigh the potential benefits you think you're going to get. And usually the benefits you think you're going to get by accelerating and getting it done faster, usually they don't play out, and they were never realistic to begin with. Part of the problem you have in those situations too, no matter how dire the situation is, or no matter what your reasoning is for wanting to compress the deployment, is that you get software vendors and system integrators, implementers that love that idea. Like they love the idea of implementing 6 months because they can pull all their revenue forward, and instead of it being a, say it's a $10 million project over 2 years, now it can become a $10 million project in 6 months. And so any for-profit capitalist company is going to love that. And the other reason they're going to love it is because if it does run over, and it will run over, it's not going to get done in 6 months. So even if it's 9 or 12 or 18 months, whatever it is, that run rate that they staffed up for is going to continue. So that's how the cost for the client is going to spiral out of control. And that's how the perverse incentives work in this industry, where now the software vendors are happy, the implementation partners / system integrators happy because they're getting more revenue and they're getting it faster. And all along they've been telling you that this is a great idea, and then you're the one stuck, left holding the bag. So I think you just have to be real careful with that, because the operational disruption it can cost you exponentially more than the risk you thought you were addressing in the first place by compressing it. I understand why they'd want to do that and the urgency behind it, but you've got to really be objective and not rely on your software vendors, your implementation technical partners to convince you. Because I can tell you right now, I can save you a lot of time and money, and you don't even have to go ask them what they think. I can tell you right now, they're going to say it's a great idea. You should do that because it's great for them, and they would love that idea. So save yourself a bunch of time and money. There's some free consulting advice out of this podcast. Don't even bother asking your software vendor, because they're going to say, hey, great idea, let's do it. But what I would say is be really careful and have a really deliberate business case and a deliberate risk mitigation plan and a deliberate fallback plan as well. Because I rarely, if ever, have seen something that aggressive work in a compression strategy.
Yeah, super interesting for sure. One follow-up question kind of to all of that is kind of what role does leadership play in steering the organization through? Obviously, this is more of a crisis-induced compression transformation. So what role do they play in that?
Well, this is where they've got to educate themselves. They've got to make sure they're getting good advice from objective and tech agnostic partners. This is a really dangerous spot for boards, because if you go to chances, just knowing what little I know about Marks and Spencer and the size and scale of that organization, I'm guessing they are probably reaching out to one of the big consultancies, one of the big software vendors. And again, the advice you're going to get in those ecosystems is probably conflicting with your own interests, and it's also conflicting with reality. So you have to make sure you're getting objective feedback from someone who doesn't have anything to gain by convincing you one way or the other. You want someone who's got no dog in the fight, or other than just making sure you are successful. So if they're making money off a software deployment or a software sale of sorts, along with implementation technology services, there's a conflict of interest right there, and you should not be asking those people for their opinions because they have a conflict of interest in advising you on what the best answer is in terms of doing that.
And one kind of follow-up question to all of this, but related to other companies, is how can organizations enhance their cybersecurity frameworks to prevent similar attacks or similar situations to this?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious to know. I don't know enough about the back office dealings of how this all happened. Was it truly a technology issue? Was it a human error? Was it just some sort of human mistake? I mean, there's a lot of things it could have been, and so I would need to know what the real root cause of the cybersecurity breach is, because it's too easy just to blame the technology and say, let's just rip it out and put in a new technology and that'll solve our problems. Because if the problem was human error, which there's a high likelihood it could be, or it could be that you weren't using the technology you have to its fullest capability. If it's one of those two things, then you're not fixing anything by putting in new technology. So you just want to understand the real root cause of what it was that would have caused that issue. And then if it was the technology, if it truly is a matter of, well, this technology is just so outdated that it's just too vulnerable and there's nothing we could do from a human perspective, then look to other third-party bolt-on cybersecurity providers that might be able to provide you a solution without necessarily having to go through a complete system replacement, because a complete system replacement, first of all, is going to take you a lot more time. It's going to be a lot more risky and costly. So why not just solve the urgent problems in a different, more targeted way if you can? And so those are the types of questions I would ask to make sure you're going the right direction. Because I have a feeling, again, I don't know all the details. We're not consulting to Marks and Spencer. They're not a client of ours. We don't have all the information, but my gut tells me they're going down the wrong path and they're chasing the wrong solution when there's probably a better, more cost-effective and risk-adjusted version of what they could be doing.
For sure. Yeah, that's some great advice for sure.